If the last few years have taught us anything, it's really that the workplace can change dramatically, almost overnight.
Absolutely. Think back to 2020. It was like this giant unplanned experiment, wasn't it? Suddenly so many people working from home.
Yeah, and for some, that was great. No commute, pajama bottoms.
Right. But for others, it was incredibly stressful. Juggling kids and Zoom calls, or if you were an essential worker, facing totally new dangers.
It really hammered home something fundamental, I think.
That work is deeply human. It's way more than just earning money. It shapes our identity, gives us purpose. It's where we build a lot of relationships.
Change the work, you change the people. Simple as that.
And that's exactly why we're diving into industrial and organizational psychology today. PSYC for short.
Right. This is the field that takes the science of human behavior and applies it directly to how we work, how organizations function.
Yeah, and our mission here is to unpack the two big sides of it. You've got the I side industrial, that's more about structure, efficiency, hiring the right people.
Kind of the mechanics of the workforce.
Exactly. And then there's the O side, organizational. That's the human dimension. Leadership, motivation, feeling satisfied, finding meaning in what you do.
So we're looking for those aha moments, the insights that really make a workplace not just productive, but actually, well, good, fulfilling.
Precisely. Because work should be more than just bearable, right?
Definitely. Okay, so to get this, we need to go back to the beginning. And maybe surprisingly, it wasn't psychologists leading the charge at first.
No, it was engineers. The roots of the I side are really in something called scientific management. A guy named Frederick Winslow Taylor was the pioneer.
And his approach was pretty mechanical.
Oh, totally. Think of the worker almost like a component in a machine. His whole goal was to use scientific methods to find the one most efficient way to do any given task.
So things like really detailed job analysis, hiring people with specific traits for success, training them in that one best way.
And rewarding pure productivity.
Yeah.
That thinking drove a lot of the Industrial Revolution. The assembly line is the classic example.
Olds, Ford, using conveyor belts, time and motion studies, squeezing out every last bit of efficiency.
And growing out of that efficiency focus came ergonomics, or human factors. That's where psychology really started to meet engineering.
Designing things to fit the human?
Exactly. Making machines safer and easier to use, how buttons are placed on a control panel, the way a computer mouse evolved. It's about fitting the tech to us, not forcing us to adapt to awkward tech.
Okay, so efficiency was king. But then something shifted. A study came along that found something much more powerful than just, like, better lighting.
Ah, yes, the Hawthorne studies. Landmark stuff. Happened at the Western Electric plant near Chicago back in the late 20s, early 30s.
And they were just trying to see if things like lighting levels affected productivity, right? Standard efficiency question.
And that was the plan,
Yeah.
but they got totally baffled.
Yeah.
Because it turned out any change they made, better light, worse light, different break times, seemed to temporarily boost productivity.
Any change, how does that work?
Well, that led to the famous Hawthorne effect. The conclusion was, it wasn't the changes themselves, it was the attention.
Just being watched, being singled out.
Exactly. Making the employees feel important, like someone was interested in them, that had a bigger impact than the physical environment.
Wow. So the workplace isn't just gears and levers.
Not even close.
Yeah.
It proved persuasively that the workplace is a vital social system. That forced a huge shift towards what we call the human relations approach.
Meaning you have to care about morale, attitudes, treating people well.
Because those things are essential for productivity, not just optional extras.
Mm-hmm.
That insight really paves the way for modern IO-Psych.
Okay, so that brings us to the modern eyesight industrial psychology. Structuring the workforce, you mentioned 4 key areas.
Right. Job analysis, employee selection, training, and performance appraisal. These are the pillars for managing human resources effectively.
Let's start with job analysis. It sounds dry, maybe.
Yeah, it can seem that way, but it's absolutely fundamental. It's a systematic way to break down a job into its smallest parts, not just listing duties.
You look at the KSAOs.
Exactly. Knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. And increasingly, we talk about competencies, which is really your ability to use those KSAOs effectively on the job.
And this isn't just like a general job description you'd find online?
Oh, no. This has to be precise, especially for legal reasons. In the U.S., think about the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA.
Right. Job analysis has to distinguish between essential and non-essential functions. Why is that separation so critical?
It's about preventing discrimination. If a function is non-essential, meaning the job could still be done without it, You can't refuse to hire a qualified person with disability just because they can't perform that one non-essential task.
Like demanding a desk worker be able to lift 50 pounds if it's not actually core to the job.
Precisely. If it's not essential and documented as such through proper job analysis, making it a requirement opens the organization up to serious legal risk. It protects everyone when it's done right.
Okay, so that clear definition then feeds into finding the right people, employee selection.
Yep. And one powerful, maybe underrated source is referrals. People already working there recommending someone.
Does it really work?
The data says yes. One study found something like 1 in 5 referred candidates got hired. Existing employees often have a good sense of who would fit.
Interesting. What about testing, beyond just skills tests?
There's a whole range. Integrity tests, some are obvious, others more subtle, and situational judgment tests are really interesting.
How do those work?
They give you realistic workplace scenarios and ask how you'd respond. They're generally harder to fake than, say, a simple personality quiz.
Okay, but here's something that always surprises me from the research. The single strongest predictor across many jobs.
General intelligence, yep. Cognitive ability.
Like the Wonderlic test they give to NFL players.
That's a classic example. It consistently shows up as a powerful predictor of job performance, which, of course, raises its own set of questions about fairness and potential bias in testing.
Absolutely. And that bias issue seems huge when we get to interviews. We all have that feeling.
The interviewer illusion.
Yeah, that feeling like, oh, I can tell I'm a great judge of character. I know if they're being truthful.
No. Yeah, we tend to be overconfident there. Most research shows unstructured conversational interviews are actually pretty poor predictors of job performance.
So what's the IO fix?
Structured interviews. It sounds rigid, but it works much better.
Meaning?
Asking every single candidate the exact same set of job-related questions in the same order and scoring them on predefined criteria.
Takes the intuition, the gut feeling out of it.
Largely, yes. It makes the process more fair, more legally defensible, and crucially, a better predictor of who will actually succeed in the role. You can also use work samples, portfolios, maybe an in-basket exercise to see how they handle tasks.
Okay, so you've hired someone, now you need to evaluate them. Performance appraisal.
Right. It's for feedback, development, but also for decisions, promotions, raises, sometimes terminations. So you need that documented paper trail for legal reasons too.
And the big trap here is bias again, right? The halo effect.
Classic bias. A manager has a generally positive feeling about an employee.
So they rate them high on everything. Teamwork, communication, technical skills, all of it.
Exactly. Even if the person actually has weaknesses in some areas, the overall positive halo blinds the rater. The opposite, the horns effect, can happen too.
How do you fight that?
One common tool is 360-degree feedback. Getting input not just from the boss, but from peers, people they supervise, maybe even clients, plus a self-assessment.
Triangulating the data.
Pretty much. It gives a much richer, hopefully more accurate picture. And that connects to another idea, organizational citizenship behavior, or OCB.
That's the extra stuff people do, right? Helping out a coworker, staying late without being asked, organizing the office party.
Yep. The discretionary things that aren't strictly in the job description but make the workplace better, it definitely boosts overall productivity and the social vibe.
But there's a downside.
There can be. For the employee, constantly going above and beyond can lead to burnout. And interestingly, the social context matters. If you have a supportive boss, OCB is seen positively. If you have a hostile boss...
Your coworkers might see it as just sucking up.
Exactly, brown-nosing. So the impact isn't automatic, which is a perfect lead-in to the O side, the organizational psychology piece.
Right. Moving from the structure and mechanics to the people, the culture, the feeling of work. Let's start with management philosophies.
Okay, well, think about W. Edwards Deming, an American, but he hugely influenced post-war Japan.
With quality control.
Yes, but his philosophy was broader. He really criticized the typical American focus on short-term results. He called it driving a car with our eyes fixed on the rearview mirror.
Ouch. So what did he push for?
Innovation, long-term planning, focusing on quality throughout the process, not just inspecting at the end, empowering workers.
And then there are McGregor's famous theories, X and Y.
It's still so relevant. Theory X is the old-school assumption. Workers are inherently lazy, dislike work, need to be closely controlled, threatened with punishment.
Pretty bleak view of humanity.
Right. Versus Theory Y, which McGregor advocated. This assumes work is natural, people want responsibility, they're creative, and they'll be committed if the conditions are right.
Much more optimistic.
And that optimism links to things like Donald Clifton's strengths-based management.
Focus on what people are already good at.
Exactly. Instead of pouring resources into fixing weaknesses, identify and leverage people's existing strengths. Don't try to make everyone average at everything. Let specialists excel.
And does that actually work, bottom line-wise?
The research suggests it does. One analysis found successful strengths-based programs boosted productivity by something like $1,000 per employee.
Wow. Okay, so good management, focusing on strength.
Yeah.
That should lead to happier employees, right?
Yeah.
Job satisfaction.
It definitely correlates. Higher job satisfaction links to lower turnover, people leaving, and more of that helpful OCB we talked about.
What drives satisfaction? Is it just pay?
Pay matters, of course. But what's really fascinating is that it's often less about the absolute amount of money.
And more about feeling like it's fair, compared to others, compared to the effort.
Exactly. The perception of fairness is huge. And that sense of fairness also ties into commitment to the organization.
You mentioned 3 types of commitment.
Right. First is effective commitment. That's the best kind. You feel an emotional attachment. You identify with the organization. You want to be there. That's linked to better performance.
Okay, what else?
Then there's continuance commitment. This is more like the golden handcuffs situation. You feel you have to be there because the costs of leaving are too high.
Using benefits, seniority, maybe it's hard to find another job.
Right. And that type of commitment, it has a neutral or even negative link to performance. People are staying out of necessity, not enthusiasm.
Well, not ideal. And the third?
Normative commitment. This is a sense of obligation. You feel you ought to stay, maybe because the company invested a lot in your training or gave you a big break. Loyalty.
These different ties really get at the meaning of work, don't they?
They really do. Amy Rusminsky did groundbreaking research on this. She found people can view the very same occupation in 3 different ways.
Okay.
As a job focus is purely on the material benefits, the paycheck. As a career focus is on advancement, status, promotions. Or as a calling, where the work itself is seen as fulfilling, a contribution, a mission.
And she studied hospital maintenance workers, right? Same tasks, but totally different perspectives.
Exactly. Some saw it as just cleaning, job. Some as a step towards being a supervisor, career. And some saw their role as crucial to helping sick people heal, calling.
And those with the calling orientation reported higher life satisfaction overall.
Yes. But the really empowering idea here is job crafting.
Meaning you can change how you see your work even if the tasks don't change.
Precisely. It involves making small physical or cognitive changes to make the work more your own, to align it better with your values or strengths.
Like that maintenance worker who started rotating the artwork in patient rooms to make the environment nicer.
Perfect example. That's job crafting. Taking initiative to shape your tasks or relationships at work to make more meaningful. It's a skill you can take anywhere.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to leadership. How is that different from just management?
Good question. Management is often about maintaining order, implementing rules, focusing on efficiency within the current system. Leadership is more about influence, motivation, and often change, setting a vision.
And there are different styles.
Lots, but 2 classic ones are transactional and transformational.
Transactional sounds like a transaction.
It is. It's based on exchange. You do this work, meet these goals, and I'll give you this reward or recognition. It works within the existing structures.
Okay. And transformational.
That's about inspiring followers to go above and beyond, often by changing the goals or the vision itself. Think charisma, passion, intellectual stimulation, paying attention to individual needs. They inspire people to achieve more than they thought possible.
Aiming higher.
Right. And more recently, there's been a focus on moral leadership. Things like servant leadership.
Putting employees and customers first.
Exactly. And authentic leadership leaders who are transparent, self-aware, have strong ethics, admit mistakes, building trust.
And the leader's style heavily shapes the organizational culture, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Culture is that whole web of shared values, beliefs, norms, how people dress, how they communicate, what's celebrated, what's frowned upon.
Like the NetApp CEO calling employees just to thank them, or Boston Consulting Group flagging when people work too much. Those send powerful cultural messages.
They really do. Contrast that with something like downsizing. It's a common strategy, but research often shows it doesn't deliver the expected economic benefits, and the human cost can be enormous. It sends a very different cultural signal.
Definitely. Now, a huge topic today, diversity and inclusion. The data seems clear that diversity is good for business.
Consistently. More diverse organizations tend to have better financial performance, more innovation. But achieving real inclusion is tough because of biases,
You mentioned the Boston Symphony Orchestra. That example is just incredible.
isn't it? They put up screens for blind auditions to increase gender diversity, but it didn't fully work until they carpeted the stage area.
To muffle the sound of women's high heels clicking?
Exactly. It shows how incredibly subtle and unconscious these biases can be. You think you're judging just the music, but tiny cues leak through.
Wow. So how does IO psychology tackle this? Integrating D&I into the I side.
That's a major focus now. For instance, adding D&I skills or competencies to the KSAOs in a job analysis, making it part of the core requirements.
But that raises some tricky questions, right?
Oh, definitely. Huge debates. Should companies use tests designed to screen out prejudice? Should they look at applicants' public social media for red flags? Where's the line between fostering an inclusive culture and invading privacy or being unfair? It's a real tension.
Okay, let's wrap up by looking at the connection between work and, well, our health. This feels really important.
It is critically important. The impact of unemployment or even underemployment, working fewer hours than you want, or in a job below your skill level, it's devastating.
Physically and mentally.
Both. Increased risk of heart attacks, obesity, stroke. Psychologically, huge spikes in anxiety, depression, substance abuse. One big study found unemployed men were 21% more likely to die over a 9-year period.
21% just from being out of work. That's staggering.
It really is. And even for those with jobs, stress is a major issue. High demands, lack of control, unclear expectations, micromanaging bosses.
Yeah, and role conflict. Trying to juggle work and life.
Yes, a huge source of stress, especially when demands clash. And there's a significant gender dimension here, too.
How so?
Research consistently shows that even when both partners in a heterosexual couple work full-time, women still do significantly more household work and childcare. One estimate was an extra 8 hours per week on average.
8 extra hours. That's another work day.
Basically, yes.
Right.
And that pressure can spill over. Another interesting finding. Women were half as likely as men to ask for a deadline extension, even when they needed one.
Why?
Fear of being seen as incompetent. Even though studies show supervisors generally viewed extension requests neutrally.
So the fear wasn't reality-based.
Not usually. And the fix was simple. Organizations that had clear, explicit policies about extensions saw that gender gap disappear completely. Clarity helps.
When that stress just keeps piling up, that leads to burnout, right?
Yep. Chronic work stress manifesting as emotional exhaustion, cynicism, or detachment from the job, and feeling ineffective or unaccomplished. You see physical symptoms too. Headaches, fatigue, sleep problems.
What's the antidote, besides changing the job itself?
Time off is crucial. Leisure, just pleasant activities away from work. And vacations.
But we hear that vacation glow wears off fast.
It often does, sadly, because people come back to the same overwhelming workload. The key seems to be psychological detachment during the time off, really mentally switching off from work.
Easier said than done sometimes.
For sure. But the health stats underline the need. Remember the unemployment stat? There's a similar one for vacations. Men who regularly skipped annual vacations were also about 21% more likely to die over a 9-year period.
Wow. So taking time off isn't just nice, it's potentially life-saving.
The correlations are certainly there. So pulling it all together, IO psychology gives us this essential map.
It shows we need both sides, the efficiency and structure of the I side.
And the human relations, the meaning, the well-being of the O side. You can't maximize one by totally ignoring the other. Not sustainably anyway.
Okay, so here's the final thought, the real paradox to leave you with. It comes from research on flow.
Flow. That state of being completely absorbed in an activity where your skills perfectly match the challenge. 6 Cent Mahali's work.
Exactly. The research shows people are 10 times more likely to experience that optimal state of flow while they're at work.
Makes sense. Work often provides clear goals, immediate feedback, challenges that stretch us.
But here's the twist. In those same studies, when people were actually at work, even potentially experiencing flow, they were also 6 times more likely to say they wished they were somewhere else.
That's the incredible paradox, isn't it? The place where we're most likely to have peak experiences is also the place we often fantasize about escaping.
So that's the challenge for you listening. Reflect on that gap in your own work life.
How can you use some of these ideas, maybe job crafting, focusing on fairness, seeking connection, clarifying roles to bridge that gap?
How do you not just find efficiency, but find that meaning, that engagement, maybe even that flow, turning the work you have into something closer to the calling you need?